I want to tell you about how I got these metal plates in my face. It was early 2017, and I was walking in DC after having returned from Michigan for my grandma Havorka's funeral. My grandma. We were kindred Leos who loved eating ice cream and dancing and talking about cute boys. After she had several strokes and started having dementia, I was the only one of my siblings who would go visit her regularly. Even though my mom told me not to come out to Grandma as transgender, to come out to her as Preston, she knew who I was. I was her favorite grandchild. And sure, maybe it was weird to her that I had a beard now, but that didn't matter. She had called me handsome the last time I had seen her. So not only did my heart hurt from being in mourning, so did my actual chest from having had top surgery 19 days earlier. Pain is this funny thing where it can signal an injury or a loss, but it could also represent a new and welcomed beginning. And top surgery was such a blessing. But my partner at the time did not show up to care for me the way that I thought he was going to. So I felt frustrated and alone. And then Grandma died, and I just knew that I had to power through this time on my own. So I'm walking, and I see these tall, dark shadows ahead of me on the sidewalk. And suddenly, there was these red flashes, red so dark it could have been black. And maybe my vision had gone colorless because it turned out I had been jumped by two strangers. They broke my nose, gave me a concussion, and broke my jaw in 7 places. But I really had no idea at the time what had just happened to me. I somehow walked to my apartment, unlocked both doors, and I start calling for my partner. And I remember not knowing why I was calling for him. He doesn't come downstairs, but instead his other partner, Artie, is the one who calls the ambulance and makes sure that I get to the hospital. Artie would later tell me that when my partner came downstairs, I started apologizing to him, saying, I'm sorry, as if I was scared that he was mad at me. It was Artie, who is another transgender person, who advocated for me at the hospital when the staff misgendered me and called me the wrong name. I was severely concussed, okay? I couldn't see well, couldn't hear well. Everything was just so shaky. It was like I was in an earthquake that was lasting for hours. So I really needed that support from Artie. My partner, who is not transgender, was there for some amount of time, but this dude, he freaking leaves the hospital without telling me and takes Artie with him. I felt so scared and alone and very confused. So it's the next day that I have jaw surgery to permanently implant the metal plates that are now in my upper jaw, right below my sinuses. And thus begins a 6-week ordeal of having my jaw wired and of living on a liquid diet. I had paid leave. Oh boy. And I'm so glad that I did, because as you know, you cannot afford to live in DC unless you're getting paid somehow. So I get home from the hospital, and honestly, I have no idea how that happened. Nobody came to pick me up. I just appeared at my house somehow. And what does my partner do? He leaves town for work. And he had paid leave, but he sure as hell did not use it on me. I just felt at my freaking wit's end about this dude. His controlling behaviors about my gender expression, that wasn't enough for me to break up with him. His choices to just peace out after top surgery instead of taking care of me, that wasn't enough. But this series of abandonments, this was enough. This was the pain that harkened a new beginning for me. But I just couldn't break up with him at that exact moment. I couldn't talk. And just with everything I had been through, like my brain and my head was just this like swollen red and purple tomato. I now believe that my grandma, who I'd been in mourning of when the assault happened, became my guardian angel for me at this time. That she saw the assault, she can now see me more clearly and who I was as a transgender person, and perhaps she saw the all too familiar abusive relationship that I had been in. So she made sure that I had help when I chose to accept that help. About a week after the assault, my blood was still all over the porch. No one had gone out there to clean it up. And so I decided I was gonna go do it. And Artie opens the door and tries to stop me from doing it. And I tell them to go back inside and that it had been long enough. It was time for me to do it now. I admittedly felt ashamed about what had happened to me and how this person, my person, who just should have been there for me, repeatedly was not. In my concussed brain, his abandonment of me was somehow my fault. So when he was gone and after he came back, it was my other chosen family who showed up to care for me when I let them. Artie took me to a follow-up doctor's appointment, and their mom made me food. Wendy, my boss at the time, who was just this bright and incredibly enthusiastic person, came over to make me smoothies and showed me how her family cut mangoes. She also brought her baby over, and he shined his light on me. Sade, my best friend at the time, she came over to laundry my bloody clothes and fundraised to buy me new ones when the dry cleaner said that they weren't salvageable. She took me on walks, held my hand, and played music for me. I felt cared for. So it's at the 6-week mark of having my jaw wired, and with the love and care of my chosen family, that I finally had the strength to break up with this dude. Yes, thank God. And the next day at the doctor's appointment, with each untwisting and pulling off of the wires off my gums and teeth, I felt freer and freer. Now, over the years, I've thought about these metal plates as different things. Like, they're my fussy tenant who complains about the weather, how much smiling and chewing that I've done. Or like, they're these titanium wings constantly fluttering against my jawbone. On a good day, they are a sturdy lighthouse that beckons my smile home. At my worst, they are my enemy, a psychologically and physically painful reminder of a time when I was abandoned by my partner after a tragedy. But at my best, they remind me of my survival and of the love I received from Grandma Havorka and my chosen family in a time when I had great need. Thank you.